I'm going to show you how to work Steeks with a knit facing. I'm going to demonstrate this technique here on this tubular swatch. As you can see, it's primarily in stockinette stitch, with the exception of these two purl columns, one running right here and the other running right here, the entire length of the swatch. Another thing to note is that I've placed a removable stitch marker here along the bind off edge, just left to this left purl column. This is going to keep us oriented as we move through the steps of the steek process. Okay, let's turn our swatch inside out. When you turn your swatch inside out, you'll notice that those two very hidden purl columns are now quite pronounced knit columns here on the wrong side of the fabric. These two columns are going to work as the anchor for our knit facing. Let me show you how to prepare and knit your first knit facing. I'm going to work from the cast on edge to the bind off edge using a smaller circular needle and facing yarn, and work into each and every one of these stitches, picking up. Here's how. I'm going to take my needle and insert it from between the two columns outward, making sure to go under both legs of each stitch, starting at the very first stitch of the column. Wrap your facing yarn around the needle and pull it through. Again, insert your needle into the next stitch of the column, wrap your working yarn or your facing yarn around, and pull it through. Once you've picked up into each and every stitch along this knit column, you'll work 4 rows of stockinette stitch, starting with a knit row. Once you've completed your 4 rows of stockinette stitch, you're ready to move on to your second facing. You're going to work your second facing from the bind off edge towards the cast on edge. Once again, with a smaller circular needle and the facing yarn. Be sure, just as last time, to insert your needle under both legs of each stitch as you pick up along this knit column, remembering that we're working in the other direction. So your knit stitches are going to look like upside down V's instead of right side up V's. I have finished knitting my second facing and am now ready to turn this tube right side out. Once again, orient your fabric so the cast on edge is closest to you and the bind off edge farthest away. Find again your 2 purl columns. Between these 2 purl columns, there are 10 columns of knit stitches. I want you to identify the most center point of these 10 columns. So 5 stitches from the right and 5 stitches from the left. With a pair of precision tip scissors, I'm going to cut directly down the center of that centermost point. So I'm going to count once again before I cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm starting at my cast on edge. And carefully cutting between the centermost columns of stitches. You may notice that the edges of your fabric want to curl under. That's okay. Let them curl under. Whew, okay, there we go. The scary part is over. I'm finished with my scissors. Take a deep breath. So now what we want to do is secure the first raw edge. Take a look at your now 5 columns of stitches here. Identify of these 5 columns between the purl column and the edge, the most center column, the third and center column. It's 3 over from the left, 3 over from the right. Fold your fabric so that that column of stitches is along the top. Now, what you're going to want to do is hold your facing yarn, the needle with your facing yarn on it, parallel to that folded edge. With a spare needle, you're going to work into each and every stitch along this folded edge at the same time as its corresponding stitch on your circular needle, knitting them together as you go and binding off as you go, working from the cast on edge to the bind off edge. Here's how. Insert your spare needle under both legs of that top column of stitches, that center column, and then insert that needle into the first stitch on your circular needle. With your facing yarn, knit these 2 stitches together. There we go. Now, do the same steps for the next stitch. Insert your spare needle under both legs of the next stitch of the folded fabric, as well as the next stitch on the needle of your circular needle, and knit these 2 together. Now, use the tip of this circular needle to pick up that first stitch and pull it up and over that second stitch and off your needle, binding it off. Continue repeating these steps for the entire length of your swatch, knitting together and then binding one off. Once you finish securing the first edge, you're ready to secure the second. To secure the second edge, you're going to work from the bind off edge to the cast on edge. Once again, find that center stitch of the 5 edge stitches. Fold your edge in half so that that center column of stitches falls to the crest of the fold. Holding the fold parallel to the circular stitches, once again, you'll work into each stitch of this center column together with each stitch on your circular needle, binding off as you go. Remember that since we're working from the cast off edge to the bind off edge to the cast on edge, your stitches are going to look like upside down V's instead of right side up V's. Insert your needle into under both legs of that stitch, of that first stitch, and then into the first stitch of on your circular needle, and then using the facing yarn, knit those 2 stitches together. Work into the following 2 stitches. Work those 2 together. Oops. And then bind off. Working into the fold of these edge stitches and working together with the facing stitches not only traps the raw edge between the two, but it also prevents the raw edge from unraveling further. Just as you did with the first edge, continue in this fashion all the way for the length of your swatch. I have secured my second edge, and now if you take a look at the inside of the fabric, you'll see these original knit columns, which are anchoring our knit facings, which we secured by working through that center column along our raw edge stitches. With these three things combined, we have worked Steeks with a knit facing. The only thing left to do is to take a tapestry needle and with either your main yarn or your facing yarn, close the ends of each channel created during this process. And that's it. That's Steeks with a knit facing.